distinguished guests, the officers, non-commissioned officers, soldiers, and civilians of the United States Army Mid-Atlantic Recruiting Battalion welcomes you to the Central Jersey Recruiting Company Change of Command ceremony. Captain Carl Hartman, who has commanded the company since 5 February 2016, will relinquish the command to Captain Fook Van Lee. Presiding over today's ceremony is Lieutenant Colonel Keith Bryant, commander of the Mid-Atlantic Recruiting Battalion. Biographies of Captain Hartman and Captain Lee are in your pamphlet for review. We would like to take this opportunity to recognize our guests. Colonel Wandler, Commander, 1st Recruiting Brigade. Colonel Retired Doherty, President, AUSA, 1st Region. Command Sergeant Major, Retired, Maggs, Army Reserve Ambassador. New Jersey School Board members, superintendents, principals, and educators. Special thanks for the staff of the Monmouth Battlefield State Park for allowing us to use the park for today's ceremony.
Company, up and set!
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the arrival of the official party and the playing of the national anthem. Let us pray. Our Father, as we pause during this change of command to give praise to you, illuminate our hearts with the warmth of your grace. We ask your blessing on our departing commander, Captain Hartman, and his family. As they travel to a new home and assignment, give them a safe journey and excitement for the possibility of new duties. We also ask your blessing on our new commander, Captain Lee, and his family. Lord, we pray the acceptance of this unit will be a challenge for ministry and leadership of these soldiers. Each of us is grateful for your continued presence and guidance in our lives. Help us to be accepting of your love and strength in our lives. Amen.
Please stand. Arms.
The official party consists of the presiding officer, United States Army Mid-Atlantic Recruiting Battalion Commander, Lieutenant Colonel Keith Bryant, the outgoing commander, Carl P. Hartman, and the incoming commander, Captain Fook Van Lee. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Jesse Noakes, the Monmouth Battlefield Historian.
like to take a minute to welcome everybody to Monmouth Battlefield State Park on behalf of me and the staff. We're more than happy and honored to have this ceremony here. Now I'll try to do the best to fit a 12-hour battle into 5 minutes, but let's see how it goes. So, what you're staring at is 1,880 acres of what some regard as the best preserved battlefield in America and top 3 in the world. Most importantly, it's also considered the birthplace of the American Army. The first 2 years of the American Revolution do not go so well for the Continental Army, as they're plagued by misfortune and mistakes again and again. In the fall of 1777, they lose the capital of Philadelphia to the British, and they will enter winter quarters outside of Philadelphia on the hills and heights of Valley Forge. Now in Valley Forge, they will spend months starving. However, several things happen. They refit, they re-equip. Most importantly though, they retrain. There's only one monument on the entire battlefield here, and it's a gentleman behind you named Baron von Steuben. He's a Prussian officer who arrives in America to gain some glory in himself. However, he's going to revamp the army in Valley Forge. Each colony is in charge of training its own soldiers. Instead, he will create one drill, one manual for them to all act under. In the fall of 1777, a victory at Saratoga by an army in northern New York will gain a victory. That victory is going to convince the French to enter the war formally as an ally with the Americans. They are now going to send their army and their navy. Fast forward to the winter of 1778, early spring. British Parliament gets spooked. They're afraid the French Navy is going to arrive in Philadelphia and capture that British army there. So General Clinton, Sir Henry Clinton, the commander of the British Army in Philadelphia, receives orders from Parliament to evacuate and consolidate their forces in New York City. They will leave Philadelphia in mid-June 1778, and Washington will quickly react and leave Valley Forge at the same time. It's a humid summer. It's humid. It's wet. The Continental Militia, New Jersey Militia, is making it a disaster for the British as they try to march across New Jersey. Washington is faced with a dilemma. He's not sure how his army is going to take to their training. He's not sure how things are going to go. Does he launch a major attack against the British and stop them in New Jersey? Does he allow them to pass unmolested? He decides to hold a war council, and listening to his junior officers, decides to launch a partial attack. Because of the heat and the harassment by the militia, the British are forced to stop in Monmouth Courthouse for several days. Now it's known as modern-day Freehold. And that gives Washington enough time to arrive in Englishtown and decides to attack. On the morning of June 28, 1778, he will send Charles Lee, his second in command, with about 5,000 soldiers to attack the British rear guard in Monmouth Courthouse. The line of march for the British is over 5 miles long, made up of 2 divisions and multiple loyalist refugees from Philadelphia. Due to a lack of intelligence by the militia, Charles Lee engages the British rear guard in Monmouth Courthouse without realizing that half of the British army is just over the next hill. Quickly, the British division turns around and counterattacks Charles Lee. He begins to try to organize a fighting withdrawal and quickly becomes disorganized into a mass retreat. As he's retreating across the battlefield from Freehold, crossing over modern-day Route 9, and coming this way, George Washington is bringing up his soldiers. He figures that he is going to bring his soldiers to support Lee if needed, and if Lee has everything under control, his entire army can witness a victory. However, when Washington gets onto the battlefield, he realizes the situation is not only confused, but his forces are mass retreat, being followed closely by the British. Quickly, he will take over command. Using his experience as a surveyor, he will look at the ground on the land, realize there's multiple high points, use that high ground to his advantage and set up a line of defense along this ridge in front of us, off to our right, along a hedgerow, a fence, and form 2 lines of defense on that far ridge, the last thing you can see out there. Charles Lee holds the position at the hedgerow for about 15 to 30 minutes, giving George Washington plenty of time to form 2 lines of defense on the far ridge Charles Lee, after the 15-30 minutes, is forced to retreat as the British get around his flanks, and he rejoins Washington on that far ridge, forming 3 lines of defense. The British pursue, expecting the same untrained, unorganized Continental Army they faced on the field time and time again. Instead, they're met by volley after volley of accurate musket fire and volley after cannons. They're forced to pull back. They bring their cannons forward, and a 3-hour artillery duel ensues. The artillery fire is very hot. It's not very accurate because they're at their maximum range. During all this, George Washington displays one of his greatest qualities of listening to his junior officers when a guy by the name of Colonel David Ray from the 2nd New Jersey informs him that there is a hill on the left flank of the British. And if they can get cannons and men onto that hill, they can outflank them. This position behind me is where those 4 cannons are placed, and they catch the British in a crossfire. The British forces are forced to retreat and pull off the field. However, they are leaving on their own. George Washington is not driving them off the field himself. He does not have that victory he so desperately needs. Instead, he will order 1,000 hand-picked New Englanders to emerge from that tree line and attack the Scottish Highlanders, the 42nd Regiment of Foot, the Black Watch. They are still in existence today. He will drive them off the field. He now has his victory. Everybody is happy, except for one person, General Mad Anthony Wayne. Now, as it goes without saying, you don't want to offend anybody with the nickname Mad. And Washington grants him permission to attack the British Grenadiers, one of the most elite units in the British Army and in the world. He brings 400 Pennsylvanians across this ridge in front of us and smacks into the Grenadiers. He begins to drive them off the field until the Grenadiers realize, wait, we're the best unit in the British Army. How are we being driven off by a bunch of guys that just learned how to fight? They're going to counterattack and drive Wayne's men back in front of us to this apple orchard where the Parsonage Farm once stood. They would take shelter in the Parsonage Farm. Now, we don't know if it's on purpose or if it's by accident, but what we'll do is bring their left flank right back in the range of these 4 cannons, who are more than happy to remind them that they're there. The Grenadiers will take heavy casualties, they will pull off the field, and that will effectively end the battle. After that, the British redo their strategy and focus on the war in the southern colonies, where they'll eventually meet their demise. However, that's not the last instance of the military on this field. 157 years ago today, the American Civil War starts. Nobody expects it to become what it is, and only call for 90-day volunteers. After the first battle of the Civil War, the Battle of Bull Run, things don't go so well for the Union. They realize it's going to be a much longer affair. In the summer of 1862, Abraham Lincoln is going to call for 300,000 volunteers, each state being required to fill a quota. If you do not fill that quota, you have to initiate a draft, something that every state is afraid of. Initially, all New Jersey recruits are trained at Camp Olden in Trenton. However, with the influx of new recruits, they need new training camps. They decide to build Camp Rendezvous number 3 on location at Monmouth Battlefield. They will rename it Camp Friedenberg after a local magistrate and judge named Peter Friedenberg. The 14th New Jersey will be the first unit raised there. 1,000 recruits will be trained and enlist for 3 years service, otherwise war's end. They will leave here with 1,000 men in early September of 1862. They will then go to Maryland, where they guard the Monocacy River and a railroad bridge there, until being folded into the Army of the Potomac following the Battle of Gettysburg. They will fight every battle with the Army of the Potomac, and eventually gain notoriety as the Monocacy Regiment when they return to that same river they guarded and fight the Battle of Monocacy, where they will save Washington, D.C. They go in with 300 men of the 1,000 that left. They will come out with 75. One of the biggest losses are their officers, who are inflicted heavy casualties. Peter Friedenberg Jr., the son of the namesake of the camp, is a major in the regiment and asks for permission to lead the regiment in the following battles. He will unfortunately become a casualty too when killed at the Battle of Opequon in September 19, 1864. However, the unit will continue to fight well, now having the reputation of the Monocacy Regiment, and will come back here with only 200 men of the 1,000 that they left with. 28th New Jersey is another unit that enlists, following the 14th. They serve for 9 months. They will serve as the vanguard of the attack on Maurice Heights and the Battle of Fredericksburg. They will enter with about 1,000 men. They will suffer 200 casualties on that battlefield. The 29th New Jersey will be the final unit raised, another 1,000 men. However, luckily enough for them, they don't see much combat service in the 28th and 29th, will be relieved of duty right before Gettysburg when they return home. Ending in Camp Friedenberg, they try to raise one final regiment. However, there is not enough soldiers, and they are forced to close the camp, effectively ending this ground that you see as a military installation for the Union Army. Soldiers will write home saying how proud they are to train on the great battlegrounds of Monmouth, and people still come here today to enjoy the grounds for themselves, whether it's riding their bikes, taking wedding pictures, or most importantly, learning about the battle. The Visitor Center is open every day of the week from 8 to 4 o'clock. The grounds are open now from 8 to 6:30. We'll be open till 5 o'clock today, folks. We'll be more than happy to have you guys come on in, look around. We'll answer any questions you'd like. I would like to thank everybody for allowing me to speak at this ceremony, and most importantly, thank you for your service.
Thank you, Jesse, for the history of this park. At this time, a bouquet of red roses is being presented to Jessica Hartman as a thank you for her service and dedication, and as a farewell from the Spartan Company. Now, a bouquet of yellow roses and company coin are being presented to Paige Schaefer as a sign of friendship and welcoming her to the Spartan team. The change in command ceremony is a military tradition rich with symbolism and heritage. Since the earliest chronicles of history, military leaders have used a banner or some visible standard to identify themselves and to serve as a rallying point for their soldiers. When attacking on the battlefield, soldiers would follow the standard or guidon of their leader, most often found at the forward edge of the battle. For the modern American soldier, the unit guidon also serves as such a symbol, representing not only the heritage and history of the unit, but also the unity and loyalty of its soldiers. The guidon is the commander's symbol of authority, representing his responsibilities to the organization. The passing of the unit guidon represents the transfer of authority and responsibility from one commander to another. The company first sergeant is the keeper of the guidon. As the senior enlisted soldier of the unit, she is the spokeswoman for both the loyalty and the concerns of the soldier, and also the principal advisor to the unit commander. The passing of the guidon from the first sergeant to the outgoing commander signifies her final act of allegiance to that commander. The passing of the guidon from the outgoing commander to the senior commander signifies that the unit is never without officer leadership. The passing of the guidon from the senior commander to the incoming commander signifies his trust and the passing of responsibility from the unit and its soldiers. By authority of Army Regulation 600-20, Paragraph 2-3 Bravo, the undersigned assumes command of the United States Army Recruiting Company, Central Jersey. Signed, Fook Van Lee, Captain, Engineer, Commanding. The passing of the guidon from the new commander to the company first sergeant signifies the confidence that the commander places in the non-commissioned officer corps. It is the first sergeant's first act of allegiance to the unit's new commander. Ladies and gentlemen, the commander of the Mid-Atlantic Recruiting Battalion, Lieutenant Colonel Keith Bryant.
So you guys picked a great day to do this. I was a little concerned about the weather driving up, but we've waited a really long time for a day this nice, despite the fact it's a little breezy. We've all suffered through a long winter, and I think it's over. Colonel Wandler, Colonel Doherty, Sergeant Major Maggs, friends and family of the Central Jersey Spartans, thank you all for coming today. I'm going to cede most of my time to PJ because I know how this is going to go, so I'm going to keep my remarks brief. I've been here for a year now, and it's become very clear to me that recruiting is extremely challenging, and recruiting here in New Jersey, in this economy, with the current political uncertainty, well, it doesn't get more challenging than that. The men and women of Spartan Company have not only risen to that challenge every single day under the leadership of Captain Hartman, they've tackled the recruiting mission while at the same time changing people's perceptions of serving in the Army across all of Central Jersey. I can say with conviction that there's not a single person anywhere in recruiting command who has spoken to more high school juniors and seniors in the last 2 years than Captain Hartman. PJ, your efforts will be paying off years after you return to your logistics family. Good luck to you and Jess in all of your future endeavors. Captain Lee, you have your hands full, but you have a great team, and in the short time I've known you, I'm totally confident that you're the right person for this job. Welcome to the team, to you and Kate. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the outgoing commander, Captain Carl P. Hartman.
Good afternoon. I got my 45-minute, actually 90 minutes yesterday out of my system at a military opportunities day, so I promise I won't take 45 minutes. It'll be significantly less than that. So, good afternoon, Colonel Wandler, Colonel Bryant, distinguished guests, family, friends of Spartan Company, and thank you for attending today's ceremony. First, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Colonel Moskowski and Colonel Crew for giving me the opportunity to command again, and for Colonel Wandler and Colonel Bryant for allowing me to continue to serve as the company commander for Central Jersey Recruiting Company. To my wife, Jessica, thank you. The last 2 years have been trying, to say the least. It definitely has not been a 9-to-5 assignment. For all those late nights, weekends, my constant talk about work and my good idea fairy moments, thank you. You always listened, gave me sound advice, and more often than not, told me to shut up in color. I love you. Times have certainly changed, and what a better place to conduct a change of command than this battlefield before you. New Jersey was the center place for many decisive military operations during the founding of this country, to include right here at the Monmouth battlefield. Following the revolution, the early aspects of military recruiting operations took place right here, as recruiting NCOs stood up 3 regiments, which is roughly 3,000 soldiers. Furthermore, those NCOs had to train those future soldiers to fight and win during the American Civil War. 3,000 soldiers compared to the 443 future soldiers that we are currently tasked to enlist during this fiscal year in Central New Jersey. Times in our country certainly have changed indeed. Our military has been and will continue to be asked to solve complex problems around the world. In order to do so, we need the best and brightest young adults to step up to the challenge and take an oath similar to the oath taken by the young Americans who fought here on this battlefield. Over 2 years ago, when I was given the opportunity to command, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. But I figured New Jersey would be an easy recruiting assignment. Everywhere I go, I'm thankful for my service, and people truly are thankful for the men and women that served in the armed forces as well as first responders. But wow, there's definitely a paradigm of military service that exists in New Jersey. New Jersey has great schools, period. It absolutely does. They have produced talented young men and women. As a result, they have a lot of options for post-secondary opportunities. Throughout my time in this command, I've come to realize that educators have a tough job. It is through their hard work and dedication to the students at all levels, state, county, local school boards, superintendents, principals, and teachers. I have not met a single educator that does not put the education of their students above all else. I am truly impressed by the potential of the current generation of students and the educators present today. I thank you for your service to your community and to your students. To the hundreds of community partners, from schools to business, both in the public and private sector, Eagle Oaks, the Association of the United States Army, school boards, the Ramsey Rhinos ice hockey team, I cannot thank you enough for your support of myself and my team as we attempt to recruit the next generation